Some people don't know the meaning of the word impossible. Such a person is Dame Evelyn Glennie, a one-off, a truly remarkable and inspiring woman. This is Masterclass. Evelyn Glennie is the first solo percussionist in the world, the first to give a percussion recital and concerto performance at the BBC Proms, and the first percussionist to have made a dame. She's also created her own world of music, or as one critic observed, she now rules a musical realm of her own making. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, she's achieved all this since becoming profoundly deaf as a child. Dame Evelyn Glennie. I have never seen so much paraphernalia in the studio. It's a jumble sale, actually.
Even I never know what I'm going to turn up with, actually, so
true.
There we are.
Yeah, you can bang it and make a tune out of anything. That's the motto, isn't it? So let's go back to your childhood, because you grew up on a Scottish farm. It was a lovely childhood, loving parents, musical as well. Both your parents played instruments, sang and all that. And you were quite gifted yourself as a pianist and a clarinetist from an early age. Mm-hmm. So when did the problem start with your hearing? How old were you then?
Well, I was 8 years old, and I was becoming much more isolated as a person. And, you know, I loved to go out with my friends and ride my bike and go to other farms and just enjoy a normal childhood, really. And I found that it was very difficult being in groups. And, but of course, I had no idea that I was actually losing my hearing. Yeah. And I really just became more and more isolated. I wanted to be by myself. I wanted to do things by myself. And of course, I had just started the piano when I was 8 years old. And this was the time when things were happening with my hearing. And so this was really a refuge in a way. It was an environment whereby I could control that. And I had a real sort of relationship with the almost like the invention of sound, because it was something that was seeping through my system, and it's something very personal as well.
Well, let's go back. You made it sound so effortless, as if it was almost a gift that you had this disability, which you actually turned into a positive. In what way?
Well, I think that the fact that I had time to adapt, and I wasn't sort of in this environment where people were putting the deaf tag on me, so I wasn't being categorized at all. And I think that's a huge part of what has really happened with my upbringing, because I refused to categorize myself. I refused to categorize the music I play. And so therefore, the time I had to digest the sort of direction of sound and what it was actually doing to me and my relationship with sound was really important.
But this would be at a time when you still had hearing.
Absolutely.
But what you're saying, as it deteriorated, well, so you learned how to deal?
Yes, I do believe so, because I mean, there was a long time when I thought, well, in order to hear, everything needed to be louder. And so actually for a long time I was playing extremely, in a way percussively, actually.
Where on the piano?
On the piano,
yes.
in order to hear it,
yes,
you know.
Of course.
And I was wearing hearing aids and so on. So the sound was being boosted by the aids, but it wasn't actually giving me clarity, and it wasn't actually helping my sense of touch, my dynamic range, the emotional aspect of giving sound. Mm-hmm. And I found that I was actually composing, can you believe, very, very loud pieces of music, but they were pieces that I thought were truly extreme, because I was fighting for the extremes in sound, yes, you know. Yes, I was fighting for the very high and the loud. I was fighting for the very low and loud. Yes.
You got rid of your hearing aids.
Yes, I did.
You rejected them. And was it at that moment that you actually then chose percussion? as an
Well,
instrument?
not really. I actually saw the school orchestra play when I was 12 years old, and I was looking for something that would help me enter into a sound world that had different attacks rather than the piano, where I became too familiar with very early on. And I really wanted to be dealing with sustained sounds, with short sounds, with high sounds, with low sounds, with thin sounds, with fat sounds, with distant sounds, with present sounds, and so on. And I looked at the percussion section, and I was really intrigued by the huge range of that family of instruments. And obviously the orchestra just had a few instruments, but it was enough to fuel the interest of a 12-year-old. And so I simply asked to have lessons. And it was really only after I began percussion playing that my percussion teacher, who was a peripatetic percussion teacher, you know, I was still struggling with the fact that I needed to hear through the ear. And he happened to strike a timpani, or a kettle drum, and he said, "Evelyn, are you actually feeling that sound?" And I said, "Feeling the sound? What do you mean?" And he said, "Are you feeling it in another part of your body?" So I struck the drum, and I said, "Actually, I am. I'm feeling it here." And he tuned another drum, and I said, "I'm actually feeling it here." This was just the beginning of suddenly realizing that my body, in fact, was a huge ear. It was like a resonating chamber.
Yes.
And what was happening here was basically overload. I was trying to feed so much sound here through this part of the body, but actually by distributing the sound, by taking the hearing aids away, I was then able to almost sort of taste the sound, digest that sound, so that low sounds were felt much more in the lower part of the body rather than through here. Higher sounds were felt really in the upper part of my body. It was a huge realization, actually.
How do you mean felt? What does that mean?
Literally vibration.
Really?
Literally vibration. And all of that then changed the way I manipulated the sticks or the mallets that I use. So instead of gripping onto the sticks, which actually kills the vibration through the shaft, I actually imagined my hand being more of a support system. So when I play snare drum, for example, I'm almost holding the stick with just literally, it's just placed along my thumb here, but I'm just supporting it with my pinky rather than gripping it on
So it's
like this.
Extension of you.
Almost like a limb, yeah. It's just an extension of your body. But what I did realize was that there's a huge difference between being the participator of the sound and being the passive listener. So people in the front row will have a very different experience to you being there, or for me sitting here, or for someone sitting in the 5th row or the 20th row, or up in a balcony, or wherever it is. We all have a unique experience. But the fascinating thing about what we do as performers is that, of course, we always rehearse in an empty hall, and then the audience come along and change everything.
That changes the sound and changes your vibration as well. And all that.
Absolutely. So we've always got to really be alert to the environment that we're in. And in a way, this is our instrument, you know.
So we've arrived at the table. We've arrived at this conglomeration of extraordinary things.
I know.
Could you still demonstrate then what you mean?
I mean, this one, for example, which is quite fascinating. Can you believe I've popped a little bit of water in there? This is an instrument called a waterphone. What I'd really like you to do, if you didn't mind, is actually I'll ask you to hold the smaller one. It's just a bit lighter.
I'm quite strong, you know, even though I have white hair.
If I actually give this a real kind of whoosh with a stick, what I'd like you to do is to let me know when you have stopped feeling the sound through your hand.
Sure. No.
I would almost guarantee you stopped hearing it before you stopped feeling it.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Without doubt. Yes, sorry, I did.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, the whole presence of sound is still continuing actually,
Yes.
it's still there in your body, even although the audience may have...
But I heard a noise.
Yes.
You didn't, you can't hear a noise.
This, I can see this happening, and if I see movement, there's sound. There is sound. So, for example, if I... Just let me know if you hear something.
No, not so far.
But what's the atmosphere?
That, watching you do that, you mean?
Yes, what's the atmosphere?
A gentle, tranquil mood.
So you've described a mood and there's no sound. But we could be just sitting here and it could be an embarrassing silence, or it could be a nervous silence. But you actually said tranquil, gentle, and there's no sound.
No.
You know, but if I went...
I hear it.
And now the sound has stopped. So it's really, you know, deciding to draw the audience in or push them away, and really using the visual aspect in order to give the illusion of sound and therefore an atmosphere.
There's a determination in you, which I can tell when I talk to you. There's a strength there of ambition, but it's more than ambition. It's something else, isn't it? It's something deeper than ambition.
Well, I think, I don't know what it is, actually. You know, for me, the aim has to be very, very clear, very simple indeed, but it also has to be very honest. You know, the type of profession that we're in, ultimately, when you stand up and play, you know, you have to be totally committed in what you're doing. So, you know, if I'm playing the waterphone, that's my favorite instrument. If I'm playing, you know, this mouth siren or something, that's my favorite instrument. And likewise, if I'm talking to you now, which of course I am, you're my favourite person in the world. do you see what I mean? So that's very important, and I think that there has to be this commitment in order for then the emotion to come through.
Well, you've got an extraordinary array here. I mean, that's a child's
Yep.
sort of rattle, isn't it?
Spinning top.
Spinning top, yes.
Yep.
And all these you've used in various
Absolutely. I mean, for example,
recitals you've done.
with this particular one, which is very, very simple indeed, it's just a hollow tube with a spring coming out at the end. And if I just shake this, it's so unbelievably simple. But you can imagine, you know, maybe a group of children all with a spring drum and different parts of the room.
Yes.
And I mean, you're engulfed in this sort of, and it's fantastic. It's very easy for kids to manipulate.
Was there one moment in your long career when that was special, that was standout, that in yourself you thought this is it, this is what I've been working toward? Was there one moment?
I think it's very hard to choose one particular moment. I really do, because what I have realized in this type of profession is that basically you're dealing with building blocks. So, you know, I remember playing at a lot of after-dinner events and things as a student, and all of that was very, very important. I used to give a lot of workshops and lecture demonstrations for children. That was very important indeed, you know, just to plant the seed of curiosity in a way. And it also built my own experience up as a player and seeing what worked, what didn't work, and just the whole functioning of being a musician, the business side of being a musician, was really important. So you could say something like, well, giving a prom concert
well,
is...
I was going to say, I mean, there you were. I mean, they poo-pooed the idea of a solo percussionist, and here you are at the prom. You know, they're doing it. I mean, that must have been a very special moment, I would imagine.
Well, it was a very special moment because we had a very special piece of music as well, and I think all the ingredients really worked. I mean, I remember, for example, trying to get percussion accepted in the Young Musician of the Year, and every single year I'd write to the producer and say, why isn't percussion there? Why isn't percussion there? And he would always reply and say, there's no repertoire. And I'd say, there absolutely is repertoire. And of course, each year it was growing and growing and growing. And I actually had to go into a studio to almost prove that percussion was legitimate, as it were, that percussion could actually belong in a competition alongside strings and brass and winds and piano, of course. So, you know, a lot of work, and of course I was too old then to take part, but I was just so determined to get percussion through and accepted, you know, like that.
What else here that we can demonstrate? What are these curious things here? Like some long, elongated earrings.
Well, these are really more little mallets that give a... Can you sense that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You do, and it made you laugh.
Yes, it did.
So that...
It's a jolly sound.
You know, it's interesting. This is really wonderful because this is called a samsara, and it's like a kalimba or a thumb piano, but you can actually change the vibration.
Oh, it's lovely.
You know, it's fantastic.
I think it's time we actually moved around and explored this array of instruments that we have over here.
Okay.
Evelyn. So let's wander across. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the vibraphone,
It is, absolutely.
which is not a xylophone, because the xylophone's got wooden,
Wooden,
and this has got metal.
absolutely, wooden bars. And the wonderful thing about this instrument is that we have a pedal here, and
Yeah.
it's almost like a piano sustain pedal. So we can get very short, dry sounds, or if I press the pedal, we get beautiful sustained pedals.
All right, so what are you going to play?
Well, this is an example of a piece that I found when I first started playing percussion, whereby I was stealing music from the violin repertoire, flute repertoire, and so on. So this is a piece by Vivaldi, a Piccolo recorder concerto. We'll just play the third movement that I felt worked really, really well on vibraphone with piano.
The pianist is over there.
Oh, wonderful, Philip Smith,
Philip,
who's just
welcome.
fantastic. Yes.
Right, Evelyn, away you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's lovely, and it really works.
Yes, it
doesn't
does.
Yeah,
It does.
beautiful,
Yes,
yeah,
it
absolutely.
does indeed.
Let's now move across to something which is far less familiar, I should say.
Yeah, yeah.
What is this, Evelyn? What is
This is called
a spaceship?
It is like a spaceship. This instrument is called a halo, and it really is a very, very new invention, and that's what's so interesting about percussion. We don't actually know how many instruments are in the percussion family, and you know, it's a never-ending field of exploration and discovery and curiosity, and this is an example of that. And so basically it's almost like an upside-down steel pan, and something whereby we use our bare hand to play.
Yes.
It's a fantastic instrument to have in the family home because you can just strike it and immediately get a sound. And so really my job with this instrument is to try to move it forward, have repertoire written for it and so on. So this piece, which is called Orologeria Aureola, which is
glad you said
quite
that.
a mouthful.
It did a mouthful, didn't it? Yeah.
Is,
very good.
this is a piece that I wrote alongside Philip Shepherd, and it's for tape and halo. So it's a little bit unusual, and it's just this sort of incessant, almost quasi-clockwork type of feel, but it's just a perpetual type of motion as well.
Okay, right, well, let's hear it then. Orologeria Aureola. Not bad.
Well done, you.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Right.
There we are.
And there you are, and away we
We'll
go.
get my little in-ears in, and we'll give this a go.
Okay, well, we've got a third-year student now from the Royal College here called Lucy Landemore, and she's about to take your masterclass. Now, are you fairly tough on young students when they come here? I mean, are
Yeah, I'm honest,
You're
you know,
honest.
I'm honest. I have to be honest with myself, and I'm tough with myself, so
Good.
there we are.
Okay. Well, Lucy, come on, you now know what you're facing. Lucy Landemore.
Hi, Lucy.
It's nice to meet you. Looking forward to this?
Yes.
Okay, well, what are you going to play for us then?
I'm going to play Ultimatum 1 by Nebojša Zivkovic.
Okay, there you are, take the stage.
Really interesting. Obviously, we're just going to do bits and pieces from this piece. What I find extraordinary about the music of Nebojša Zivkovic is that he really bears his soul in the music. And we've almost got to imagine ourselves painting this picture that is just, it goes far beyond what we see on the page, if that makes sense. So if, for example, with this beginning, which is very discordant indeed, it's an ugly sound that we're after. So we must forget that we're marimba players, but think, what kind of sound and emotion do we want from this? So imagine yourself, we've all walked in here, we've paid our money to experience you. Not to hear you, but to experience you. Can you try that opening whereby you blast us all out of this room?
Okay.
And don't worry, it's not your marimba, so you can do whatever you want with it. But just try where it is just the most momentous sound and feeling we have ever experienced. Try. Just that first. Now, if you try to do this with two mallets, now I don't know what the notes are, but and then you start rolling. So in a way, it's a little bit like what we experienced with the waterphone. How much are you feeling of the sound before you move into the next part? So yes, this, we stopped hearing it, so we better carry on because we just don't like silence. But you see what I mean? Hold it. And it says 5 seconds in the music. Make it 10 seconds. Make it 10 seconds. Make it how you feel.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm getting?
Yeah.
Explosive here, Lucy, please. Go. Hold it, just hold it. Hold that E. It's the nicest chord we've had up to this point. So just hold it, and then as though you're off stage. All of this next part, it's an off stage feel. Try, take chances. Go, go, go. Too much, too much. this will do. Do you see how I'm trying to separate the sound palettes in a way? So 1 minute you're going whoosh, you're exploding the sound here. The next minute you're asking us to come to you. You see what I mean? You have that power there. So really, really think way beyond what the dynamic is here. The thing about Zivkovic's music is that we do actually have to take note where the climax is in a piece. So for example, this whole beginning part, we have the sforzando, so the real attacks, we have 3/Fs, which is just, beside itself with loudness and thickness and discordancy here. We have 3/Fs with all of this rundown there. Now, however, at the very end of the piece, we also have 3/Fs, but lo and behold, I see a 4/F. Do we have that sound in us to create 4/Fs, 4 loud, 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 louds? Do we have that? So you, as the sound creator, really you've got to really think, okay, my loud at the beginning is one thing. What type of loud do I want? Do I want a scary loud? Do I want just a loud? Do I want a thick loud? Do I want a velvety loud? Do I want a harsh loud? What do you want? Only you can decide that. But at the end here, what is your sound going to be?
It's going to be a thick loud.
It's going to be a thick loud.
Yeah.
Can we therefore start from here, close to the end? And I want to see if there's any difference there in the level of loudness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let's give that a go. Lucy, please. Okay, now play loud down there. Okay, and you're loud up here. Well done, you. And let's remember that in a way the marimba is sort of split up into 3 segments. We've got the more xylophonic part of it here, where we've got to work extra hard at getting that pingy sound out there. So you have to work a lot harder, and almost, if you can just pop your mallets down 1 second, pop your hands out like this, so you can decide whether you want, which is quite stingy, or whether you want the sound to come like that. So whether... Do you get the whip there?
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier for me to do that than... I'll probably create an injury within too long. But you see how much we have to work when we can do it with 1, we can do it with 2, 3, 4 mallets. You have got to work a lot harder up here to create the explosiveness. Okay? What? Oh, no, yeah, go on. Yeah, you just try that. Very good indeed, really a lot better. I just find that much more, it's just really much more convincing. Never allow yourself to be lazy, just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Yeah. And don't forget that the higher we go doesn't always mean louder with the mallet. So sometimes it can almost be like a Spanish flamenco dancer. There's so much power in very little movement. So just try to think if you're upbeat. Sometimes we can create, for example, so almost, I'm starting down here, but it's like a real ping coming off that. It's almost like a piece of, even more, yep, that's it. And it goes against everything that we are normally taught about being a percussion player. Please hold the sticks like this. Please make sure the sticks go up and down. Please make sure there's a fluid action, etc., etc., etc. You've learned the rules, break them. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, what are you going to do now?
This piece is just a movement of a piece called Quasi Una Sonata, actually by the same composer as Ultimatum 1. And basically this piece was written for Philip Smith and myself, and it uses just a small multi-setup of tom-toms, rototoms, cymbals, and a few blocks, and vibraphone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Where you go?
Thank you.
going next on this extraordinary journey of yours? Where are you heading? Any ambitions left?
Oh, heavens, I think there's an awful lot to deal with. I think that obviously the continuation of the repertoire, the continuation in expanding how our instruments are and how they speak, but also a lot of collaborations I'm really interested in. And the continuation of sound creation through the media and using the raw hand to produce that sound. And really, in a way, getting the message across that we are the sound, in a way. We are the participators, but the sound belongs to us. It has to come from the imagination. It has to come through the tools of our trade, as it were, and then it has to get out to our audiences.
Well, I've enjoyed it immensely, and every aspect of it, and you are truly a remarkable person. Evelyn, Glennie, thank you very much indeed.
You're
for being
welcome.
my
Thank
guest.
you. Thank you very much indeed.